Hello and welcome to Podtoid. We are your hosts. I am CJ.
I'm Chris.
I'm Charlotte.
I'm Occams.
And this is episode 410. Welcome. We have a very good show for you today. We're going to talk about some Booby Dungeon Crawler, some Street Fighter, whatever horrors Occam has been watching this week. And then a little bit later, we're going to be answering some of your questions with the segment we call Goddamn Mail. But welcome, everyone. How are we doing this week?
Doing good.
Doing good?
Good.
Oh, that's great to hear.
How was ESA? Well,
Oh, God, guys, I'm so sorry. Oh, God, this is embarrassing. That's my cell phone. It's been ringing off the hook for some reason since about 7:15 on Friday night. I don't know why. It's always been just some random blocked numbers. Let me just see here. Oh, God, yep. It's another blocked number. I probably shouldn't answer this, right? Like, we're in the middle of a show. But I'm kind of worried that it's Hollywood telling me it's going to be my big break. So, listen, I know this is rude, but I feel I got to answer this. Just hold on 1 second here. Let me just see. Hello?
Listen, you. When I get a hold of you, I'm going to use your head for a bucket and paint my house with your brain.
God, well, that seems a little unnecessary. God, I'm so sorry, guys, about that. I don't know what's been causing all these random cell phone numbers. It's as if my phone number got out there on some list and database that people had easy access to. That would be crazy.
I tell you, crazier still is the fact that your cell phone sounds like, one that was made in like 1819 or something.
Yes, all those 1819 cell phones that we so famously had in the world.
Yeah. Well, I'm a classic kind of guy. My apartment's decked out in 1950s furniture. Why shouldn't my cell phone have a rotary dial on it? It's...
Well, there are companies out there, thanks to Paul F. Tompkins. I know that there are companies that make cell phone cases that are actually made of wood, mahogany and the such. So, I'm not surprised if it sounds like an old rotary dial tone.
I had a rotary phone at home for the longest time, and the main reason was because it was red, so it kind of felt like the bat phone. It did have the big button in the middle of it, but there was an element of it that was like everyone else had already moved on to cordless phones with push buttons, and I had this kind of old school red one, and it was like, yeah, it's the bat phone. But that was like a small mercy whenever I needed to call someone, and it took 7 hours to ring them. It was like so especially if their number had a lot of eights in it. It's like, here we go round with 8. 8 again. Like, if you needed to dial the emergency services, you were basically dead.
Huh.
Yeah. What's the equivalent of 911 in the UK?
999.
Oh, well, fuck y'all then. Wow. Y'all are just in the 70s. You were just fucking murdered to shit then. Wow.
Well, the thing is, we have an alternate number. I think it's 111, which we have for middling emergencies. So,
that's good.
What's a middling emergency in the UK? Like your umbrella got lost?
You've chopped your arm off, but you've made a tourniquet, probably.
The hard right were completely in control of the country.
Your top hat's caught in a tree.
Yeah, basically. Top hat was caught in the tree. I was so shocked my fucking monocle fell out. That made me drop the newspaper I had folded under my arm, and then I stepped on it with my wingtip shoes. So I took the nearest black cab to a red phone box and waited for the postman to arrive with my run out of British. This started well, but I've run out of Britishisms. I'm desperately trying to think of when the WWE come to England. They always plaster the stage in British things that we haven't had for about 40 years. So I'm desperately trying to remember those things that appear on stage. But I think I've done them all. Yeah.
It's like Triple H squatting in a corner eating a plate of jelly deals.
Yes, and having pie and mash. I don't know.
Oh, xenophobia is fun.
For anyone who hasn't been to England, in terms of what things look like, it just looks like America now. It's still it's grayer and the weather's worse. But a lot of those things that you're like, when you watch a film set in England and it shows London and they play London Calling by the Clash, all those things that they cut to a close-up of, we don't have any of those things. If you're coming over here for those things, you're in for a shock.
I used to have the stereotype that the UK was all very fancy and proper and, much more elegant than the United States. But then I watched the J.K. Rowling miniseries, I want to say The Casual Vacancy. I don't know if any of you guys saw that, but it shows that the UK has white trash people too. And I thought, oh, okay, well then this isn't so different than America.
It's one of the.
You call them what?
Oh, that's what that means. I thought it was like a weird Hispanic thing.
No.
Okay, good to know. It's something I've realized as I've gotten older is that the concept of white trash or trashy people, that is universal and global. There is no place on earth, like you can point out America and all this fun stuff or the UK. I'm sure you could go to Guam and be like, there's probably some people in Guam who are like, those people. There's a bunch of like huts on wheels or something. I don't know, but it's definitely a universal thing. So please don't feel if you're in another country, you have shitty people too. Congratulations. We all share that universal pain.
Maybe you should unplug your phone, CJ.
I should.
But you should. But then what if that big call comes through?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure there won't be at least one or two more phone calls during the show. I'm just going to go ahead and say that was probably the only one I'm going to have.
Oh, okay. So it's not like a recurring bit or anything.
No, definitely not. I definitely didn't plan at least 3 of these.
The George Foreman grill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please start every conversation that way, Chris. Please.
Hulk Hogan in his autobiography, I think it is, claims that it was supposed to be the Hulk Hogan grill, but when they tried to call him, he didn't get to the phone in time. And then by the time he rang them back, they'd already called George Foreman and offered it to him. Because that's how business works. I don't know if you know that. Like they call the person they're after once, and then if they don't answer, they immediately ring the next person. And that's...
See, I originally heard that they offered it to him, but then he turned it down to put his name on like a blender. Like he thought the blender would be the right choice.
I think there was a Hulk Hogan juicer. I think it was a juicer. Yeah. He did have his own pasta restaurant for a while.
Yeah, I remember that. Are we to believe that Hulk Hogan actually wrote his own biography?
Oh, God.
I mean, it's just let's give credit to that ghostwriter somewhere.
If Hulk Hogan wrote his own autobiography, it would be written in all caps. Like that's how you know he would write it. Let's get on with the show. And like I said, we have a good one for you today. And even though the world is shit, we're gonna try and power through. For our opening story, before we get into the games talk, I want to play a little game of Would You Eat It? As you know, the culinary world has no shortage of disgusting ideas, whether it's, monstrosities being created at Burger King in Japan or Kentucky Fried Chicken with its new Cheetos chicken sandwich, because that's something we need. But in this segment, we're going to focus on the classic ice cream sandwich. Great dessert. I have a box of them in my freezer right now. It's pretty hard to mess this one up, but it looks like the people at Oscar Mayer have managed to do just so. So I ask, would you eat the Ice Dog Sandwich? This is an ice cream sandwich with a cookie bun, hot dog sweet cream ice cream, candied hot dog bits, and spicy Dijon mustard.
No.
I'd be willing to try it, like, absolutely. But I'm trying in my head to envision it. And it kind of tastes like the mouth of hell.
I got to ask Charlotte, where did they lose you with this?
I mean, I'm no stranger to strange ice cream flavors because when I went to university, I used to live near a ice cream chain called G&D's, which is only in Oxford. And they pride themselves on doing really strange ice cream flavors like bacon and cheese. Mm-hmm. And that was actually not that bad. This was back in the day when I did eat meats, and it was pretty nice. I think the pairing of bacon works better than the pairing with cheese, but hot dogs is just like a lower class of meat that I do not want touching ice cream ever, and I would not put mustard on ice cream. That's just a combination which just screams awfulness to me.
Have you ever seen the John Candy movie with Dan Aykroyd called Great Outdoors?
Nope.
Oh, I know the film you mean, but I
No.
haven't. No, it's
Yeah,
is it a National Lampoon film. I think it might be.
No, but it's
Oh,
in the
is it not?
same vein. It's a wonderful movie. John Candy, bless his heart. I hope he's happy wherever he is in the ether. But there's a scene, there's a kind of recurring thing where these raccoons keep knocking over the trash and eating the trash, and they have dialogue, and it's all like the squeaks and squirks that raccoons do, but it's subtitled. And they're going through the trash, and this one raccoon is like, "Oh man, I found a bunch of hot dogs." Other raccoons like, "Don't eat those." It's like, "Why? You know what they are, right?" He's like, "No, what are they?" Lips and assholes. So, and I saw this movie when I was, I don't know, young, 8 or 9, and in my entire life, that lips and assholes thing has followed me every time I see hot dogs. And I like hot dogs a lot, but just lips and assholes.
Yeah, no, that's I think I know the scene you're talking about. I haven't seen that movie, but I know I've seen that. All right, let's go ahead and get talking about games. And Charlotte, you weren't here last week, so we're going to go ahead and start with you. Looks like you've been watching some Evo.
Yep. Not huge amounts continuously, but I've been dipping in and out of Evo and Speed Games United, which is a very small speedrunning event. I don't think this one's for charity. I think it's just a competitive event that's in Finland. So I've been sort of swapping between the two of them. I always watch Evo just because a group of people who I used to hang out with a couple of years ago have a fighting, I don't know if they still have it, I think they do, a fighting tournament in Hamburg. So they used to have viewing parties for Evo every year. So I've been just having a watch of I think I watched the Dragon Ball final last night, and that was pretty interesting. So I don't know anything about Dragon Ball, the TV show, never mind the fighting game, but it was pretty fun watching Sonic Fox lose very, very graciously. He's a very nice guy from what I can see.
Absolutely.
And I think he won Mortal Kombat 11 as well, but I didn't catch any of the Mortal Kombat, right?
That was the last game of last night, yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the problem is with the time zone differences. Me and my boyfriend fell asleep and woke up, and it was like the Dragon Ball final. So
it was really sweet to watch him embrace what's his name, Ichio. I'm not super caught up on the names. I know Sonic Fox, but his opponent, who apparently it was reversed last year when they had the same final, and when the guy won, he started like shivering and like sobbing out of happiness, and Sonic like embraced him, and it just there's a sweetness there that I really love to see.
Fighting game world can be very pure, as can the speedrunning world, which is why I like watching both.
I like watching kids in a playground.
Okay.
Okay.
No, it's pure.
He said from behind his bush and in his van. Yeah, exactly. You also want to talk about Last of Us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling to talk about stuff this week because I was really, really ill after ESA. We all caught the worst flu. I'm pretty sure it will go on record as one of the worst years for sickness this year.
Yeah.
Because I'm still not fully over it. It's like a week and a half now. So I've not really played much this week, but I played a bit of The Last of Us earlier on today, like an hour and a half, I think, and just went through this really, really long combat section where it was just fight after fight after fight, and just brute forcing all of it. Like, I'm on easy, and the resources I'm getting thrown at me are great. Like, I'm overwhelmed with resources and shivs and stuff, but I'm finding that the fights are getting to a point where you're in sort of a circular arena. So it's not like I remember from cover shooters I've played before, where there's definitely not going to be anything behind you unless you really take your time and people start creeping up on you. But with The Last of Us, when it starts to get to the middle section, it is really like so circular that within like half a minute, you've got guys creeping up behind you, which really, really creeps me out. I really don't like it when people sneak up on me in games. But just managed to... one of the problems with The Last of Us actually is that you can really easily spam, or is spam the right word? You can really like make use of the checkpoints in a way that's a little bit cheap sometimes. Like, I would get to a point, there's literally checkpoints in the middle of fights, so you can just sort of like try to get as far as you can and get yourself killed by being an idiot, and you'll not go back to the beginning of the fight. So I've been doing a lot of that and using that to sort of chip away at fights and get through them. And now I feel like within a couple of weeks, I might actually be done with it.
Nice.
So that's going to be nice. But The Last of Us is a game that I'm just chipping away at, basically because it's not my game. So I'm just playing it when I'm at my boyfriend's. So
that opening sequence is always going to be one that sticks in my brain as probably one of the greatest openings to a video game ever.
Yep.
Yeah, just phenomenal how they went and did that, because it is very much like a movie, in the best possible comparisons.
I think actually that just to quickly refer back to ESA, the reason I wanted to go back and play more of this after I put it down about a month ago is because my highlight in retrospect of ESA was the Last of Us run, because it was commentated by, so the guy doing the run is really good at the game, and it was commentated by somebody who is good at the game, but he was also really good at telling the story. So you would skip past all the cutscenes, and the guy who was doing the commentary would explain to you very eloquently what was going on and what had been missed, as well as doing that's a tricky thing to do, and so on and so forth. So it was a really good run to watch with really professional commentary. So that really got me to want to like experience it for myself again. So I would definitely recommend, like, it's going up very slowly on YouTube, but whenever the ESA run from this year of The Last of Us comes up on YouTube, you should definitely check it out, because it's one of the more professional marathon runs that I've ever seen.
And a lot of video on demand marathon runs of any game, like they did the same with SGDQ and all that. They're just they're so good to just kind of have in the background. Like, it's really good kind of fodder, and you can find yourself eating up your whole day just like watching these series of runs from these events. Do you know what I mean? They can really take up a lot of time. But no, it sounds like you had a really good time out there.
Yeah, it's great.
I should go myself, because it's not miles and miles and miles away. Well, it is miles and miles and miles away, but it's not like the other end of the world or anything. Maybe I'll go next year. I probably won't go next year. I'll never leave the house, but maybe I'll go next year.
If you do want to go to sorry, I know I'm taking up a lot of time. If you really want to go to one that's not too far away, there is one in Scotland just for a weekend next month called UKSG. Might be something to consider.
Yeah, I'll look into it. That's wicked.
Yep.
Nice. For my part, I've just started playing Omega Labyrinth Life. This is the third entry in the series that I have referred to as nothing but Booby Dungeon Crawler every time I write about it for Destructoid. I confused it this past week with Omega Labyrinth Z, which was the last title that was supposed to be localized by P-Cube Games until Sony put the kibosh on that. So this is the third one. And basically it is a roguelike or mystery dungeon-like dungeon crawler where you play as a transfer student to this apparently all-girls school where everyone has giant jiggling boobs that bounce every time they say anything. And you are tasked with, I believe, because I'm only like 2 hours into the game, restoring the world-famous flower garden that is in the center of the school that has a reputation of never dying. But oops, the day after your new student arrives, it completely dies. And so now you have to go explore these dungeons and kind of revive the garden before everyone gets all pissed at you. And when you go into the dungeons, it's very standard to the mystery dungeon formula, which is one of my favorite RPG genres. I don't know what it is about it, but games like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Shiren, Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon, like these are just some of my favorite games, and like I know people hate this genre, and so if you hate it, this is not obviously going to be one for you, because of the dungeons I've played so far, they are very much kind of like version 1.0 of what you'd expect from a roguelike or a mystery dungeon, where it's just square room connected by really long hallways. There's none of the more innovative layouts that have come with the series, with the genre in stuff like Shiren 5 or Super Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. But it's very competent, and the dungeon crawling is satisfying. I've had a lot of fun with it. I haven't really got to any of the more risque aspects of this game that are supposed to be, exclusive to Switch, because the PlayStation 4 version is only called Labyrinth Life. There's no Omega. But the Omega factor of this is that as you crawl through these dungeons and you defeat enemies, you will earn Omega points. And once you hit a certain threshold of Omega points, your character's breasts grow. Like that is what this is. They'll just be there and like, huh? My boobs are suddenly bigger? And I believe they reset down to their original cup size at the when you leave a dungeon. So basically, you're just trying to level up as much as you can in a dungeon to see how big their boobs can grow. And yes, at least with the Switch version, at any point during the game, you can fondle the girl's boobs. And they will make facial reactions appropriately that indicate, what kind of personality they have based on what you're doing. So there's one girl in the game who was the requisite, oh yeah, punish me, yes, hard, punish me, who loves it, and then you have the girl who doesn't necessarily like you touching her boobs. But as a dungeon crawler, I'm enjoying it. The story is actually kind of, it's not good, but it's enough that I enjoy the time outside of the dungeons as well. I think tending to the flower garden is an interesting concept that is actually works as a nice palate cleanser from the not too difficult but still can be tricky dungeons. The boob touching is something I'm not going to explore any further, but I am interested to see just how much more risque this game will get.
I'm hoping that if it's part of this genre and you know this genre well, I'm hoping you can get a soundbite printed on the box that says Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, but with sexual assault.
I don't think there is a game box, or if there is, I think it's exclusive to PlayAsia.com because I think this is just eShop and PlayStation Store only. And I will say, I believe they're charging $60 for it, which. God damn, that is way too much money for this game.
Maybe, but it sounds probably like its audience will pick it up.
Oh, definitely, yeah. But I mean, so far everything I've seen, nothing is beyond what other games have already done. I know it's just Sony's new ways of how they're going about having sexual games on their consoles, but there's nothing that so far that I've seen in this that I haven't seen in Senran Kagura or any of the Compile Heart games.
What was that one? What's the one that's the rail shooter? Galgun.
Galgun, yeah.
You reviewed it, yeah, I think.
Yeah. I reviewed both of them, yeah.
There's two, okay.
Yeah, there was one that came out for the PlayStation 4 and Vita, and that's the one that Chris Carter and I tag teamed. And then I did the one for PlayStation 4 and Switch. Which I didn't care for as much because it was very bland in the risque category.
I was going to say there's a controversy, something to do with the reversible cover, but I don't remember what it is now. Oh, wasn't it just that there was a completely different game printed on the other side of the cover? Like what the cover was Galgun, and then when you flipped it over, it was just it was just a cover for an entirely different game printed on the reverse.
I don't know that, but that sounds right. That sounds like something that they would have done because there is a mechanic in the game where you press a button and what you're playing leaves the screen and it becomes a text adventure game.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, to make it to make it seem like it's the quickly close your porn window on your computer feature essentially. So, but yeah, I'll let you guys know in my review if there's anything more risque than just casual boob touching. But
sorry, I just briefly to finish off the little fucking tangent I went on. Mm-hmm. What it was the reverse of the cover had the cover of Wild Guns Reloaded printed on it, even though both games aren't even from the same publisher.
That's strange.
I'm stuck on Omega points.
It's basically like experience points.
That's
your boobs grew.
These games. I mean, goddamn.
Really.
Sure. Just beat off to normal stuff. Get laid, something. I don't know. Come on.
Yeah.
There's so many better things you could do. Find a new kink. Just do that thing where people dress up as horses and ride each other. That's fine.
That sounds
fun
painful.
too. Fun. It's fun, so I'm told by other people.
So this game is telling me that I really need to level up. I'm really underleveled.
It is what it is. I don't judge unless it's ridiculously gratuitous. But like I said, everything I've seen in this game, I've seen in other games before. So it's going to have to really go out of its way to shock or surprise me.
I wish, just real quick, I wish they would, like, if they're going to do these kind of games, instead of being like cutesy boob touching, just do like a Legend of the Overfiend fighting the RPG, you know, like just go all out. You're at Skio Doji. Are you familiar with Legend of the Overfiend?
Nope.
Okay, have fun Googling that because it's Chris, you must know it. I know you do.
I had a T-shirt of it when I was a kid because I just thought I just thought the T-shirt. This is like 1991 or something, and I just thought the T-shirt looked badass. So I was rolling around the house like, look at this fucking monster T-shirt,
Just
like completely
banging the shit out of like psychic ninjas. Yeah.
utterly oblivious to kind of. I was like, yeah, I've seen the video on the shelf. It's an 18. I can't watch it, but look at this cool cover. I've got it on a T-shirt, and I think even like wore it to school and stuff, and like, you know, hindsight's 2020 and all that.
That T-shirt must be worth $300 now too.
That's the Todd Flanders "I'm a surfer" after
yeah, that's exactly what it was. Exactly.
And, CJ, I guess, and Charlotte, I don't know if you're familiar with it either, but it's sort of a famous is maybe the wrong, legendary, I don't know, but it is I guess one of the grandfathers of like weirdo demonic hentai from way back in the day. And it's just make that game. Go ahead. At least then you're not like pretending it's cutesy. Like, no, it's just these demons fucking all these anime girls. Yeah.
You know, the one thing I would like from all of these games, because they all do this, is they have one character profile. Like when they're in the dialogue sections, it's just the same characters. The character doesn't change their stance; they just change the facial expression. And I think if they were to add a few more different drawings of the character, it would add to the, you know, production value of something that is seen as very low budget. Because like there are tables I walk through when I'm around the garden, benches you walk through. It's very low budget, and you can really see. And I think if these types of games had more than just changing the facial expression when they have their characters talking, it would add to the game. I mean, of course, then they would have to add the boob jiggle physics to all of these different portraits, but you know, it would be worth it. Moving on, Occams. What movie are you going to horrify us with today?
Man, I'm going to talk about a little film called Tourist Trap. It is a 1979. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page here. American supernatural slasher film. All right, basically, it's the 70s were good for just dumb shit in all kinds of ways. And just everything was like lightly dusted with cocaine, and you can just tell. So these kids, and they're clearly in their 30s, but these kids hanging out. Car breaks down. They're on like this unused road since the highway was built. So this is like an old back road, and they end up at this weirdo roadside museum full of mannequins. But everything is not what it seems. And the mannequins kind of start to come to life, but there's also like the kooky old guy who lives there, and he's like, "Don't go into the main house." So that's where my brother lives, and he's crazy. And they all start getting murdered. And I sent everyone a picture of what the titular slasher fella looks like. Imagine, if you will, Zeke the plumber from Salute Your Shorts.
Great reference.
Thank you. But like, so it's how can I describe this? It's like a dude wearing like a half mask, but it's right over his upper lip. So he has like 2.5 sets of lips and just a tongue that flicks out with like these blackened eyes. And his masks change throughout the movie. As he kills people, he creates masks of them, maybe out of them. It's never really explained. The kooky old guy is played by Chuck Connors. Chuck Connors, is a famous Western star of The Rifleman and other stuff. He gives an amazing performance. It's a really good performance. Apparently Jack Palance turned this down. I'm shocked. But it's a really weird, fun horror movie. So the killer, bad guy, has telekinetic powers. That was not in the original script at all. It was just sort of thrown in. But it adds a really fun element because a lot of the times, and these mannequins, by the way, they do this thing where their jaws kind of unhinge and come down like 8 inches and just scream. It's really kind of upsetting to watch. It's a wonderful, weird 1979 slasher movie. I can't recommend it enough. I actually watched it. I was looking on Amazon. They wanted me to buy something called Full Moon. I'm go fuck yourself. I'm not doing that. So the whole thing is up for free on YouTube. Just Google the Tourist Trap full movie. Boom, watch it there in pretty good quality. So.
I would just like to point out, Zeke the Plumber is easily one of the creepiest characters ever to be on a Nickelodeon show. That was the second episode of Salute Your Shorts.
God damn, really?
Yeah.
My favorite part about that episode is it starts when they go into the dream sequence. There's a mirror ball spinning. And the cameraman and most of the crew are all reflected in the mirror ball.
Oh, yeah.
You can see him plain as day. But yeah, that was horrifying. I always kind of wish that NECA or somebody would pick up like these sort of low rent, like Are You Afraid of the Dark, Halloween characters, and like make a Zeke the Plumber figure. Because I feel like I would have bought it because it's pretty cool.
Nice.
It's funny you mentioning like Chuck Connors being in this film, and it's interesting because like you say, he's kind of like a guy who kind of had a rep. And all of a sudden, he's like this psycho. It was kind of thing that a lot of like these old school stars who were kind of reaching the end of their careers were offered these parts, and loads of them turned them down. But some people were like well up for it. Like there's a film called Motel Hell, and Rory Calhoun, who was like a huge star, literally plays this like hillbilly chainsaw wielding killer who's got like a pig's head on his head, who's like burying. They're like taking toys and he's burying them in the garden so he can like turn them into fritters. But like Rory Calhoun was like, he was like a legit respected actor. But some of these guys were really straight up in the 70s when they realized their careers were coming to a bit of an end. Were just like it was almost like they just went out, kind of like Raul Julia in Street Fighter. They kind of know they're on their way out and they're just like, fuck it, I'm just going to play this really over the top. It kind of let them cut loose, I think, for a lot of these people.
Yeah, and
just remember, Joan Crawford's last movie was Trog.
Trog, yeah. Veronica Lake, who's obviously like a superstar of Hollywood's golden era. She was in like a film, a super low budget film, and I think in the early 70s, where she plays a woman who's like genetically modifying maggots to use as like a weapon in combat.
Flesh Feast?
Yes, Flesh Feast. Yeah. So I did like that a lot of these people were offered these roles and some of them were a bit, darling, do you know the work I've done? But others were just like, yeah, fuck it. Like, I'll do it. Do you know what I mean?
The way Chuck Connors does it is, spoiler alert, Chuck Connors is the bad guy because he's the only other person who's not the kids in the film. So it's pretty easy to deduce very quickly. Like he plays it. He has like an entirely different voice and these weird mannerisms, and it's a little fey and a little just weird. Shit. What's the really gravelly voiced guy? Not Joel Silver. Is it Joel Silver? He was the hairdresser, makeup artist friend in Robin Williams.
Oh, and Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah,
I know the guy you mean, but I don't know
that guy.
His name.
His voice.
Oh, Harvey Fierstein?
Thank you, Harvey Fierstein. Okay, so Chuck Connors, when he's this psycho killer wearing the masks, he's fucking Harvey Fierstein. The voice, the mannerisms, everything. It's batshit. Such a fun weirdo movie. I loved it. Also, thank you for mentioning Motel Hell, another classic. A bunch of like gifs that I see all the time on Destructoid come from that movie, and it's a good one.
Nice. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up with Chris. You have been plugging back in Street Fighter.
Yeah, I hate it. I'm waiting for Poison. Don't like the game. What news are we talking about today?
Well, we can talk about the new Street Fighters now. I mean, that's the second story.
Nice. Asked and answered.
Yeah, I'm kind of done. I played Street Fighter, the Street Fighter 5 again, a game I don't like despite putting over 700 hours into it, and that's not an exaggerated number. And my favorite video game character of all time is going in today, so I've reinstalled it. Fortunately, I have the in-game cash, so I don't have to contribute towards the terror of the shopping mall that is Street Fighter 5. I'll play as her for a couple of weeks. I'll lose loads of fights, and I'll go back to Mortal Kombat 11, where I win sometimes and feel like a big man.
You are listening to Podtoid.
All right, that is it for games, but we have some headlines to cover. It is time for the news. And there was actually, in comparison to the weeks prior, there's a surprisingly large number of interesting stories this week, but we only have time for a few. And I just want to start with, oh God, not again. Guys, I am so sorry about this. It's another blocked number. I don't know. I think I should answer this. I know I shouldn't because we're in the middle of the show, but it might be Billy Eichner saying he wants to have sex with me. So I'm just gonna answer it. Hello?
I don't know who you are.
Okay.
I don't know what you want.
Oh, okay.
If you're
Who is
looking
this?
for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
Oh, that's interesting.
Skills I've acquired over a very long career.
Uh-huh.
Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
Oh, no.
If you let my daughter go now, that'll
have
be the
your
end of it. I will not look for you.
Okay.
I will not pursue you.
I don't have your daughter.
But if you don't,
Uh-huh.
I will look for you.
Oh, no.
I will find you.
Oh, no.
And I will kill you.
Oh, no. Okay, I think that was worse than the last phone call. I really shouldn't answer these anymore.
I think it was quite clear who that was. It was Mel Gibson.
I just assumed that he was mad about you posting that dog with the gun get the picture. Wow.
Yeah. Apparently that made a lot of people mad this week.
That's great.
Perhaps he was upset that I gave a game a low review score. I don't know. Good luck finding me. The address listed on that sheet was for our Toronto office. So, anyways, ignoring that phone call, I'm sure that'll be the last one. Perhaps the biggest story of this week is that Ninja announced that he's going to Mixer, but shockingly, no one on this show cares. So let's go ahead and start talking about our top story, which is about EA. Recently, CEO Andrew Wilson spoke about the company and its support of the Nintendo Switch, more specifically, its lack of support. There are just 4 EA games on the console: Fe, Unravel 2, FIFA 17, FIFA 18, and FIFA 19 will be joining this fall as a, quote, legacy title. It doesn't seem like Switch owners should expect anything more than that, as Wilson explained to investors that the company believes the Nintendo Switch just isn't a good match for its games. Wilson said that most people who own a Switch also own a PS4, Xbox One, or PC, and they'd much rather play EA games on this system. And when it comes to EA sports titles like Madden or FIFA, I have to agree with him. Because if you play something like Madden, for forever, you've been playing it on what is the strongest hardware, or in the case of the PlayStation era, the most popular hardware. On the SNES, that was the strongest way to play Madden. That's where most people played Madden. Most people played Madden on the PlayStation, and then they played on PlayStation 2 and Xbox, and then PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and so forth. They're not really going to Nintendo to play Madden. So that kind of makes sense. And it's the same with FIFA. Like, FIFA is the biggest game in Europe, and the PlayStation brand is the biggest console brand in Europe. So it makes sense that they want to focus on that versus the Switch. But, does EA not think a Star Wars game would do good on Switch? I would fucking buy a Star Wars game on Switch, even a terrible EA one.
I don't know if it's a thing about just the lack of power on it or the branding. I don't know. I understand what you're saying about the sports stuff. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But yeah, there's plenty of other things EA could do and does do that would be a perfect fit for the Switch. So it's weird to me.
I understand the idea of these companies not giving so much support to Nintendo. And let's use Ubisoft as an example. I think it was last year or the year before, or it could be any year, really. The year that they released Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. I can't remember the name of that game. But at the end of the year, they showed a breakdown of where their money is coming from. And it was PlayStation 4 represents 34% of their money. And the Xbox One represents 25% of their money. And the Nintendo Switch represents 2%. So I understand that. Like it's not going to make you a ton of money unless you're designing games specifically designed for the Switch audience, which is what Ubisoft did when it really, when it made that Mario and Rabbids game. Like that was something tailor-made for the Switch audience. And that's something that EA used to do. Like EA used to make games specifically for the Wii audience. There are a lot of EA games that were exclusive to Wii that were aimed at the people who owned Wiis, and they're just not doing it anymore. And it seems like they have zero interest in pursuing that.
It's a bold statement to make. Like, and kudos, like in a roundabout way, kudos for making any statement that almost seems custom designed to kind of boil the blood of an audience. Like any statement that's just basically, we're telling you what would and wouldn't work. And it's like, and sometimes they do tests and they do sensor stuff and they look into this stuff and that's what the signals say. But even then, sometimes it's best not to just say it because you're essentially challenging the people. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, this is the same company that said people aren't interested in linear single player games anymore.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm struggling to disagree with their choice. Actually, it's kind of their choice to make, and if it's what they need to do to keep their bottom line, then fair enough. And what you said, CJ, about sports games not be Switch is never going to be the primary format for that. I also agree. But like Chris says, maybe just don't say anything. Maybe just have that as an internal policy, but don't make an announcement. Yeah. I mean, was this even prompted by anything, or was it just throwing it out there as a random statement?
I think it was an answer to an investor phone call.
Okay.
Because I believe this came as part of an investor roundtable phone call that they had recently. So,
yeah. I guess you've got to be kind of honest to your investors as well. Maybe it's just a shame that this. I mean, yeah, I just think it's an unfortunate situation. Because actually, I think if you get put on the spot by an investor, you can't lie. You've got to say the truth. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For our second story of the week, we've touched on it a little bit earlier when Chris was talking about his favorite character of all time coming to Street Fighter. This weekend, as we also mentioned, is EVO, and we're recording on Sunday morning Pacific Standard Time. So I think the last day of EVO has just started right now. So we don't know who's going to win for Sunday, but so far you had Yuta Sudo took first in Soul Calibur 6. We mentioned that Go won, I think that's how you pronounce the name, I don't know, managed to beat Sonic Fox at Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Clear Lamp took the top spot in Under Night In-Birth. Some Jackass won Samurai Showdown. And Sonic Fox did manage to successfully defend his title in Mortal Kombat. All great games, but we're going to focus on Street Fighter V. As was leaked earlier this week, there are 3 new characters coming as part of this season. Chris's favorite character, Poison, is joining the roster. Street Fighter 2, the only character from that game who hasn't been introduced yet, E Honda is finally showing up, as is Final Fight 3's Lucia, who I don't know. She didn't look that terribly interesting to me. But Chris, I just want to know, and I think you've already answered this, with Poison joining Street Fighter and Sindel coming to Mortal Kombat, is the latter character going to get more of your time?
Probably entirely on the basis that I'm just better at Mortal Kombat. And that's better, if I'm a 1 at Street Fighter, then I'm like a 1.5 on a scale of 10 in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's cool. You wait years for your favourite character and then 2 come along at once. Just like British double-decker buses that you might have seen in movies. But I'm really glad to see those characters show up. Poison's got some wild fucking hair going on, but they've changed her up a bit, which is cool. It's great to see both those characters returning to those games. But I do think I'm genuinely going to pick up Poison today. I've got the in-game cash to buy her, and I'll get Sindel when she comes along. But I do think I'll probably play as Poison for a bit and just realize why. Because, I put all that time into Street Fighter, but there's so much I fundamentally don't like about the game or how it plays. But I was part of a squad of people who played it, and we went to tournaments and had weekly meets and all that. So I continued to play it socially, and I did try and get better. But there's just fundamental flaws with the game, which is why I think it's one of the worst mainline Street Fighter titles. So I will play that for a bit. But of the 2 2 games, I do prefer Mortal Kombat 11. So yes, when Citadel comes out, I'll kind of be playing as her until I start losing, and then I'll just drop them both because that's the way I roll, basically. But I'm stoked to see these characters come along. Lucia has been, she's kind of almost like one of those characters that people ask for, but it's more so they can be like, I'm looking forward to Lucia, and then people go, who's that? And you're like, oh, don't you know?
It must be hard to play Street Fighter when they don't own a television.
But she's one of the playable protagonists from Final Fight 3, which was a SNES sequel. Mm-hmm. It was her. You could play as, I think it was her and Hagar, and I can't remember whether Carlos the Ninja was in Final Fight 2 or Final Fight. But she's basically a savvy cop. She's a street savvy cop. She's kind of a rip-off of the Streets of Rage character. She's like a cop who's like, I don't wear the uniform, and I just walk down the street beating up the bad guys, and that's how I roll with my badge. That's kind of what her character is. But this is her first time, I think, appearing in a game as a playable character since Final Fight 3, which is like 1994 or something. So she's definitely a blast from the past. Yeah.
And we still haven't gotten Hagar in the game.
So weird, isn't it? Like, and he's turned up in others. Like he's in Marvel, Capcom, and stuff. But
you could even have him his Street Fighter 3 version where you had rollerblading gear on and a really ill-fitting like midlife crisis ponytail.
Oh yeah, Final Fight 3. Yeah,
Final Fight. Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, no, but I forgot about the ponytail.
And it looks like taped on too. It's really rough.
That's that mayor money coming through. but like Street Fighter 5 has now. Well, he's going to have what? He's going to have Cody and. Oh my God, I've completely brain farted on the roster, but there's a bunch of Final Fight characters in that. And Ultra Street Fighter 4 had a lot of Final Fight characters in it, even like, bad guys like Relento and stuff. But Hagar's never fucking showed up, which is so bizarre.
It's a shame, because he's the best character in that series. One of the best video game characters ever created in the history of video games.
I wish I could, like, when I'm like the Hagar age, which isn't too far away, I just wish I could walk down the street wearing a green pair of trousers with just a single strap, like across my torso.
Belt shirt,
yeah, and brown dress shoes as well. Like
there was I forget his name, but a couple years back, I think it was at PAX. There was this fella. He's a Destructoid member. He's just jacked as shit, and he cosplayed as Hagar. And I just remember looking at him and being so jealous because, like, it's nice shit. Your body's like perfect, cool. But just to be able to be Hagar at a con for a day, that's just a dumb nerd dream of mine.
Like a believable Hagar too.
Yeah, not like how there's so many like fat Thors now because it's easy to do. Like to look like Hagar. I'd shave my beard down, the mustache and everything. Oh my God, it'd be great.
Just walk down the street, just like giving people pile drivers.
I'd have my steel pipe, and I'd have a trash can lid, and use it kind of as a platter, and have a fake plastic turkey on it.
Yeah.
You are listening to Podtoid.
All right, that is it for the news, which means it is time for the Podtoid question of the week.
Do gay people care about John Oliver?
Sorry, that is not the Podtoid question of the week. This week's question actually comes to us. Oh, God, guys, I am so sorry. I really need to put this thing on mute. This is just incredibly unprofessional for me. But, let me just take this real quick. I'm sure it'll be a short phone call, and then we can get back to the show. So let me just pick this up. Hello?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Nope, not dealing with that. Let's go ahead and move on to these questions from you, our listeners. This is a
but now you could have told him it's Tourist Trap.
Yeah.
Also, it's nice to hear Skeet Ulrich is still doing stuff.
Oh, it's time for the goddamn mail.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Goddamn mail.
A lot of questions this week, some of them actually good. I actually had to remake that little song from scratch because it disappeared off my computer somehow. But a lot of reactions to our question posed this week. It turns out when you fake threaten to shoot a dog in reference to a National Lampoon cover from the 1970s, people take notice. So we're going to go ahead and get to our first question, which is from Laser Pirate, who is asking, why aren't there more waffles or trail mix in games?
For a second, I had confused trail mix with Chex Mix, and I was going to say because Chex Mix is just hot garbage.
What?
Like, that's the Chex Mix is garbage.
Chex Mix is fantastic. You're garbage.
Well, I am garbage, but Chex Mix is worse than me.
Ugh.
All right, it is like, you know how you use styrofoam peanuts to package something, and everyone hates them because it's a pain in the ass to deal with. Like if you were going to if Donald Trump died today, that's what they would pack his body in, is Chex Mix. That's how terrible Chex Mix is. This stuff's gross.
No,
those weird little like waffly wheat bits, and get some fucking mixed nuts like an adult.
Charlotte, do you know what Chex Mix is?
I've heard of it. I don't know exactly what it is.
Me neither.
So it's Chex cereal mixed with.
I don't know that. We don't have that.
You don't have that? Do you have Crispix?
No.
All right,
something called with a different name.
Weetabix. Y'all got Weetabix.
Yeah, Weetabix. Yeah.
Okay, imagine Weetabix, but it's like a bullshit ass cracker that's somehow less flavorful.
Right.
So they come in 3 flavors: rice, corn, and wheat, and you mix them all together with mixed nuts, pretzels, and then Worcestershire sauce. It is delicious. Occams is wrong, and
you were a 95-year-old man masquerading as an adult right now. That's the grossest shit ever.
That sounds about right. Description of me. I love Worcestershire sauce, so that's the ultimate.
Worcester.
I'm sorry, what?
Worcester sauce.
No, Worcestershire.
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 Worcestershire. Yeah, there's 19 editions. And we used to say, depending on how drunk we were, we'd just be like, Worcestershire. It would
Do you put that on your aluminum?
No, I started calling it aluminium because John Oliver got mad at people who called it aluminum. So, but I'm still going to call it Worcestershire.
In answer to the question, I don't know about waffles, but if you play Persona 5, pancakes are quite an important plot device in that game. So they ain't waffles, but it's close.
Huh?
Yeah. I can't say because it's kind of a spoiler.
Oh.
We'll talk later.
All right, for our second question, Philkin7, that's Mike Martin, right?
Yeah.
He would like us to guess how many tasers do you think it takes to bring him down? And he knows the answer to this. I'm going to go ahead and say with his recent heart problems, half a taser.
I'm not sure. He's a pretty strong. He seems to me like a pretty strong dude. I think more than one, but I don't know. Oh, are these hand tasers, or the kind where they fire the little dart and then they send the current along the wire? Because I think the hand
specifically
tasers
say.
I'm gonna go,
bro.
The dart. Don't tase me, bro. I'm gonna go the dart tasers. Mike Martin, he's thick like morning dick, so I'm gonna go ahead and say probably a good 6.
6.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Our next question comes from the Limo Maker. They would like to know what late 90s video game deserves a full remake, and why is it Dino Crisis?
There's that weird love of Dino Crisis again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is Dino Crisis.
How? Why? Just watch Jurassic Park. It's a better experience. Just go play the Genesis game. That was a better game.
Did you say late 90s?
Late 90s, yes.
Oh, I just read 90s. I skip every second word in a sentence. It helps me get through the day quicker.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was 90s, so I put Chase HQ, which I always think, like, where's that Chase HQ with like Need for Speed quality visuals and stuff? I'd fucking love it if they did that. I've got a Chase HQ t-shirt. You don't need to know that, but I've got one. And I've always wanted to check, but if it's late 90s, a fucking GoldenEye, I don't know, they did that. Jazz Jackrabbit, I don't know.
Mine's along that lines. We've been getting a lot of the 90s platformer kind of revivals with Ukulele, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, and for some goddamn reason, Bubsy. I would like to see Gex Enter the Gecko remade. Like, I think with modern technology, that could be a lot more fun than I had with it on the PlayStation back in, I want to say, 98.
No.
No?
That's the third one, right?
That's the second one.
Oh, maybe then. I played some of the third one and I was not impressed.
Third one is where he has the human girlfriend, right? The weird, the weird Sonic 06 before that came out. Yeah.
Is Gex the size of a gecko and she is a full-grown adult woman?
Oh God, yes.
Okay, because that means that he just crawls up in her. Okay, I just want to make sure.
And she looks like Pamela Anderson.
Of course she does.
Of course, because it's the late 90s.
Charlotte, where do you stand on the part of the question that says it is Dino Crisis? Because of all of us, you've played Dino Crisis the most recently. So,
yeah, I can see that actually. It's most of the problems with Dino Crisis are just because it's old. So I would say it's a perfect candidate for being remade.
But it's still a boring game.
Well, a remake can make it not boring.
I don't know, but is it still dinosaurs? Because it's just going to be dinosaurs. That's going to be boring.
So what should it be?
Dino Crisis without dinos.
All right. Well, first off, it should be Dino Riders. Like, if anything, the old 80s toys. Folks, for like the 19 people listening right now, if you don't know what Dino Riders is, look it up. Just look at, like, it was a cartoon and a toys series in the 80s, but just look at the production art for it. It is just some of the coolest, like, paint the shit on the side of a van and run around town high on meth just ever. It's so fucking cool. That would be a good game.
You know, I got to say, between Tourist Traps, Salute Your Shorts, National Lampoon's magazine covers, and now Dino Riders, we're too goddamn old to have a podcast.
We really are. Like,
don't you understand that this is what the people want, not our audience, but it's what the people want.
Oh shit!
Gonna go blast some music on my Vitrola later.
I just while CJ can answer more fucking phones on his ring rotary phone or whatever. But
yeah, absolutely.
I decided a long time ago that we needed to talk more about things that that I had relevance to, and not modern things that I don't understand. They're strange and scary to me.
Two things. One, the game I picked originally was from 2012, so yay for me for paying attention. And so, yeah, I just was like, I played this in the late 90s. My sense of time is fucked. It was Binary Domain, by the way. I love that game, but it's clearly not in the late 90s. My choice, I know. My choice would be Steel Harbinger, which is probably a game not a lot of you know, but it was this it was PS1 sort of back when those like live action FMV cutscenes were all the rage, and the gameplay kind of suffered for it. Just look up Steel Harbinger cutscenes online. Just some of the best, worst. Like, the Rift Tracks guys would have a field day with this game. But I could see like a campy remake of it right now would be pretty great.
You know, it might get a re-release because they did the Night Trap re-release, and there have been other full motion video games from the 90s that have been getting ported to new consoles and Steam. So who knows? It might be the next candidate.
I have bought every one of them.
Of course you have.
Charlotte, do you have a game?
I would literally say Dino Crisis if he hadn't said it's Dino Crisis. So it's kind of hard for me to think of a game. Anything else? I mean, my joke answer would be that Search for Reptar game of the Rugrats.
I loved that game. Oh my God,
I did
my
too.
jam.
Yeah, that was. But if you watch Rugrats or play a Rugrats game nowadays, so creepy. Creepiest thing ever. Like the plinky plonky xylophone music, just creepy.
And the least attentive parents in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the things you notice as an adult. When you're a kid, it's like, ooh, look what they could do with their imagination. As an adult, oh my God, why don't those parents pay attention to their kids?
I'm just the specter of Mark Mothersbaugh hovering over all of them in all the scenes.
So for our next question, Magical Flying, yada, 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 Chan wants to know, with Fire Emblem out, Pokemon coming in November, Animal Crossing due in March, and Breath of the Wild 2 supposed to hit whenever it is, Nintendo will have cycled through a majority of its franchises within the Switch's first 3 years. What do we feel Nintendo is going to do going forward? Does it continue to cycle again with sequels like Breath of the Wild 2, or does it go in a different direction? Just to let you know, here are some of the franchises that Nintendo owns that have not seen sequels on the Switch so far. Donkey Kong, Star Fox, Mario Golf, Excitebike, also Excitebots. I'd really like another one of those. F-Zero, Metroid Prime 4, which we know is coming, and then also Bayonetta 3, which we also know is coming. So what do we think Nintendo is going to do going forward now that they've exhausted a lot of their franchises?
I mean, it seems to me, I mean, they're going to do the sequels, but like I was looking at that list. Thank you for providing that, by the way.
Yeah.
Like Donkey Kong or Metroid, those are gimmies, dude. Those, and even Mario Golf. Like I love the first Nintendo Mario Golf. I fucking love that game. Yeah, there's a bunch they could do, and they should. It's just they're just waiting. What's the word I'm looking for? They're sitting on a gold mine with that.
Yeah, I think smart money is that they start bringing out sequels. Like I can't see them not making a sequel to Odyssey based on how well that game did. Like I think it sold over 10 million copies. So clearly that seems like a ripe candidate for a sequel. But I don't know, like far-fetched idea with Banjo-Kazooie showing up in Smash Brothers. I could see them with how cozy Microsoft is getting with every other game development and console manufacturer, like coming together to make a Switch and Xbox One or whatever the next Xbox is called, Project Scarlet, like Banjo-Kazooie game. Like it would be on both of those systems.
Yeah.
Unlikely,
Absolutely.
but I mean, for me, it seems like the sales are pointed in that direction right now.
Yeah. And I think that's a partnership that strengthens both the brands, and they need it. You know, I mean, Switch is doing awesome, and it will continue to do so. But you know, Nintendo has always had that issue where, like, after those core group of games, they have a little trouble sort of bringing in stuff to the catalog that kind of sticks for a while. And Xbox is trying, and I think they're working on making their brand a little more viable in terms of actually having games people want to play for an extended period of time. So I think it's a win-win.
Chris or Charlotte, either you guys have a thought on this?
I mean, they've got so many different things that they could potentially do, but I know that, well, they're going to go down the sequel route.
Yeah.
Surely. I mean, Metroid, they scrapped the one they were working on and they've started from scratch, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The one that Bandai Namco was making.
Oh, okay. I mean, trying to think what they could do, but basically the thing with Nintendo is the world, like they have so many different options that it's really hard to answer this question.
Right.
They could do practically anything. I mean, there's definitely a need for a lot more Mario spin-offs, I think, when you think of like how many there was during the Wii and the DS years. I remember my sister had a basketball one for the DS, and the soccer one was really enjoyable for the Wii. So I would really like to have the Mario Strikers Charged revamped for the Switch.
Absolutely. And I mean, we still don't even have a Paper Mario yet. There's a lot of Mario options out there.
Yeah.
And also, just kind of out of left field with it, but a new Eternal Darkness.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yes, it would.
Yeah. But then how would they trick you into thinking? It'd be really difficult for them to trick you into thinking there's stuff wrong with your TV, given that it's not analog anymore, right?
And Charlotte, I think that like 65% of the reason that game hasn't happened yet is because of that. And I mean that I don't necessarily have an answer of how they would fuck with you. Maybe make it more like in-game fucking with you, or just more meta. But it would be fun to for a team to figure that out.
Well, in handheld mode, they could just tell you your battery is about to die, no matter what the charge is on it, because that's very likely to happen with the Switch and its 3-hour battery. Our next question comes from Obi-Bun Kenobi. They're asking, is small talk considered a microtransaction? It's the same process over and over and leaves you more annoyed and empty than before.
Boom.
Yeah.
I don't. Sure. I didn't quite follow this one, but yeah, okay.
If small talk is a microtransaction, then I'm kind of in credit. I think it's kind of like it made me realize that like if you become friends with me, you've essentially bought a season pass to Small Talk, I think.
Oh, he meant in real life.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought he meant in video games, and I was like, "What the fuck's he talking about?" Oh,
No, it's a Small Talk, something that I hold in high regard because of horrible, crippling social anxiety. So I think that I'm either in credit with that kind of microtransaction, or I've spent a lot on it. However it works, I don't know. Do I own it or do I distribute it? I guess I distribute it. But become friends with me. You get a year-long season pass, and then some. Like in Small Talk.
And let me just say, that is one season pass I'm glad I picked up.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I don't believe you.
Our next question is from Triceratops. They are asking, what is a middling game that we personally love?
I'm a big fan. This isn't even middling, actually. This is just terrible. I'm a big fan of like Laserdisc games. Mm-hmm. Like and Occams mentioned FMV adventures earlier, but I'm a big fan of like the 80s Laserdisc arcades. I really like the Don Bluth trilogy of like Dragon's Lair, Space Ace, Dragon's Lair 2, Time Warp. I really liked the American Laser Games series, which was like Mad Dog McCree and all of those games. I spent a lot of money on those as a kid with people watching me. I was a star. People like watching me like complete them, because I had like a really good memory. So, they're all essentially memory tests, aren't they? They're all just like quick time events. So you just remember the order of the moves, or in the shooters where people are going to pop up. And so people would watch me and I'd be like, look at me, I'm completing Space Ace, where most people couldn't get past like the first screen. So I have a lot of nostalgia for those games. I think my favorite of all of them is Time Gal. So my answer is like a middling game that I really love is Time Gal. But some people would say that's not even middling. Some people say it's just straight terrible. But
I'm a pretty big fan of Lollipop Chainsaw. I had a lot of fun with that game, even though there is nothing special about it at all. And it has a lot of the problems of games we talked about earlier in the podcast with gratuitous sexual content. Yeah. And the story's absolute garbage, but it's pretty fun to play. I think that's a middling game that I'd rate pretty highly.
I think I would go the Virtual Cop series. I loved those games growing up.
I think aren't they legitimately great? I don't know. Maybe I'm.
I don't. Middling is hard for me to define. I don't. It's. I guess games like I for a second I thought about a Deadly Premonition, but then I was like, no. Well, that game's amazing. It's wonderful, and everything that'd be considered a flaw is actually a beautiful moment in the game. So
I think you'll find Destructoid gave it 10 out of 10.
And well deserved. And I fault them a little bit for not giving it an 11. But that's okay.
I guess for me, I would probably have to go with Sonic Adventure. It's the only Sonic game that I enjoy, and that's probably just nostalgia talking because it was the first game I got for my ill-fated Dreamcast. But I remember just having a great amount of fun with that game, even though I know it's poorly made, even though it is the patient zero for the problems that 3D Sonic games have had ever since. Like all of the bad habits have spawned from that game. But I think that in my memory, I loved every single thing about it, especially the speed, because the speed was unlike anything I had experienced before, because I didn't own a Nintendo 64 with F-Zero X, I want to say. Finally, a lot of people ask this question, multiple, so I want to hear from you. What so far is your favorite game of 2019?
Oh, it's easy as a motherfucker. Resident Evil 2.
Yeah?
Yeah, that remake, it was when Resident Evil, the remake 2 was announced, and I'd obviously played the Resident Evil 1 remake many times. In my head, I had it looking a certain way, judging on what I'd seen and played and the thing. And it was exactly that. And sometimes better. It was just brilliant. Loved it. 100%. Just adored it. I can't wait for what they do next with it. It's easily been my favorite experience in gaming this year so far.
In terms of calendar year, like from January, I haven't played anything that I've really fallen in love with. I've just played things that I think are good or very good. But there's still half a year to go. I'm looking forward to River City Girls, Shantae 5's on the horizon, Streets of Rage 4 is on the horizon. So the night is still young. But so far, honestly, I've played some games that I think are pretty good, or very good, but I've not played anything that I already am like, this is the game to beat for this year. I haven't yet.
I tend to play mostly older games, so the only game I think I've probably played more, but the only one that springs to mind that I've played this year, which came out this year, is Baba Is You. And it's really good, but I feel a bit weird saying it's my favorite when it's my only one as well. But if we're going to go on the basis of games that I have played this year but weren't released this year, it would probably be the 5th Phoenix Wright game, just because it dragged out for ages, but it was thoroughly enjoyable the entire time. I really need to start playing more current games, but I have so many in my backlog to work through that I mostly play games that came out last year or a few years ago.
For me, it's kind of tough because like my favorite game that I've played this year is a port of an old one, Dragon's Dogma: Dark Arisen. I freaking love that game, and I need to put more time into it. But if we're counting just new titles, it's probably a toss-up right now between Katana Zero and Toe Jam and Earl back in the or Toe Jam and Earl.
I thought you were going to say Katana Zero when I saw this question. So
yeah, well, it's definitely up there in my top two, just between those titles. I love both of those games, but my absolute favorite, like I said, that I've played this year, that it's just a port of an older game. It's Dragon's Dogma. I freaking love that game. So,
but if you put another week into Booby Dungeon game, like maybe strong contender for game of the year. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure that'll get back. I'm sure that'll make the top 10 list at my end of the year. Just right there at number 2, Booby Dungeon Crawler.
And a bunch of dudes made that Booby Dungeon game because they're focusing on the tits and nothing on the vagina. So it's like, again, women aren't getting theirs, but dudes get theirs. It's some white bullshit.
I don't know if that would be white bullshit, but okay. Anyways, that is it for the goddamn mail.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Goddamn mail.
And we are just about out of time. But before we go, Occams, do we have a community shout out this week?
We do, actually. So Phil Kin7, Mike Martin, he's retired from the community. Did a quick post yesterday talking about he's gonna bow out, and he'll still be around in the background a bit, just Discord servers and things like that. But he's kind of done being on the site, and it's the end of an era. He's been on longer than I have, I believe, and I've been on 10 years, give or take. And so yeah, it's Mike's a good dude. He's got a kind heart. He's worked really hard behind the scenes to help people out, to put stuff together, and just be a good community member. And he's a personal friend, and I love him dearly. And he'll be missed on the site. And I wish him luck in the future.
Well, I hope he gets healthy, because I know that's been his big problem right now. So I hope if getting away from Destructoid gives him a little more time to focus on, improving his health. So But yeah, thank you, Mike, for everything you've done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, that is it for the show. On behalf of Chris, Charlotte, Occams, and myself, thank you for listening to Podtoid, and don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And nope, not today, Satan.